What I'm really wondering is what the heck that noise was. That's what I'm wondering.
Me stretching. Ugh.
Hello, welcome to Minecraft PM, where we live in a cave and the dogs just won't stop barking. The first order of business for today, in this case, is going to be moving the dogs, because they're annoying. Oh. One of the things I wanted to do today is install a lot more storage into our MA system. So last night, while I was playing, I put in a crafting order for 20 64K ME storage cells. Yeah, so we're gonna go install these bad boys into our system here. Our system is a pretty complex thing. There's quite a few things that it does, but primarily it handles our automatic crafting and, well, our entire resource storage for our entire world. Oh, look at that. One too many. It'll go in this one. Explaining this world is kind of difficult because we've already been playing in it for a while. Normally, Minecraft series start with the viewers watching the entire creation of the world and the loading into it, the initial building, etc. Because we play, and we have played on this world for a long time, it's a little more difficult to do something like that. Now, although we've been playing on this world for maybe 3 or 4 months at this point, we actually haven't explored that much, nor have we built that much. Let's open up my map and we'll take a look. So, the wall is the main thing that we've been working on, and it surrounds a pretty large area. We've populated some of it with some small buildings, but the idea is that the whole place will have a large network of towns and or other buildings in between that will connect it all into one giant city, possibly expanding outside the castle walls. Most of the things that we've built are underground, and those are the things that let us automate things like farms or creation of other materials. A lot of it is in the network of caves that kind of encompasses this whole area. Now, as far as the rest of the world goes, there's really not much to say. There's some really cool terrain provided by the mods that we play with, but we haven't built anything out here. All that we've really done is explore some of the terrain and structures that have been generated by some of the mods, where we haven't actually built much outside of the reaches of our wall. For the rest of this video, I'll take you through some of the things we've built and just kind of a general overview of the entire area so that you have a baseline for the continuing episodes of this series. It's just starting to get night now and the sun is setting, so let's head downstairs and take a peek. So this is the primary area of our base. There's kind of a cave vibe to it, and we're trying to keep some of the natural stone in here, so it really does feel like a cave. That's fine though, because we do a lot of building outside, and it helps to have something that's very different so that you're not getting bored of the same terrain all the time. Obviously, this is the main storage room and crafting area. We store a lot of our, precious resources in a wall form here so that we can see them and we can see exactly how many of everything that we have, and also retrieve stuff easily if we need like 1 or 2 of it. Most of our stuff is stored in the ME system, and we have a lot of items in here right now. This is primarily why I added some more storage disks to our system. It's constantly filling up with resources from our various farms, and it's just not going to handle a lot more. As you saw before, this is our ME system, or at least the main core to it. It's a collection of controllers, a lot of P2P tunnels, and a lot of cables that move off of it into different areas. I call them nodes, and they connect a lot of our things together and allow us to craft automatically. Now, when we moved to this world around 3 or 4 months ago, that is me and Epic Ninja Bros, who runs the Minecraft series Minecraft AM. I'll link it down in the description. We only brought with us the castle walls outside and a few boxes of items from our old world. Everything that you see here we've built in the last couple months. Learning how to use applied energistics and all of its combinations and different blocks is something that I've never really had to do before. I've always used EnderIO's inventory panel or refined storage to set up auto crafting, etc. So using this mod and the channels and all the quirks that come with that was a really cool thing. I like the complexity that it adds. It may not be for everyone, but I like really complex structures and really interesting builds, and this definitely allows for that. So, the cave. We have a lot of things packed in here, but one of the first things that we built was this reactor. This is from extreme reactors, and it gave us our initial power until we started using alternative sources. It still runs when we need to, and in fact, there's an automatic thing set up to run it automatically when the power level in the system drops below 20%. That's useful for if we ever need it, but most of the time for our power we use different sources. I'll get to those later. That's one of the first things we built. Secondarily, combined with that, we built the initial capacitor bank, and these are from Ender.io. Right now, our power is 4.3 billion, and initially it was definitely not that high. This has been added to, and more blocks have been added on, and that's one of the cool things about the capacitor bank from Ender.io is the modularity of it. You can just keep adding blocks, and it'll just keep getting better and better. More and more storage, and more input and output, of course. One of the things that everyone that plays on an FDB pack likes to do is to min-max production. In our case, we've min-maxed it very high when it comes to ore. I apologize if this stuff is loud. I'll try and reduce it in post, but to boil it down, what this system does is multiply ores. This system is all based off of Mechanism, which is a mod that allows for a lot of different things, one of which is ore doubling, tripling, quadrupling, and finally quintupling at the highest level. Now this is only an ore quadrupler, because we don't have the resources or the space to set up a quintupler yet. But primarily what it does is grabs the ore that comes from wherever it may be. In our case, it's a couple of quarries from environmental tech that I'll show you later. The ores come in here, at least the ones that are compatible, which is what this interface is for. Draws them down to the injecting factory, where they're converted into 4 shards and then into clumps using oxygen. Then from clumps into dirty dust in the crusher, and then enriched in the enriching factory into a normal dust, where it's pumped into an induction furnace, smelted, and added back to our system. The oxygen for the purifier, and the, what does this stuff use? Hydrogen chloride for the injector. That's all made over here using water, and then water is converted into hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen is pumped out into this one and made into hydrogen chloride with chlorine. Chlorine is made from brine, which through here, if we go in here, it comes from this thermal evaporator salination plant, I believe. It's called something like that. And then it gets pumped into here. We have it turned off right now because we have so much of it we don't need more. But then it gets pumped into here, turned into sodium and chlorine. And then I believe we just have the sodium. Yeah, the sodium just sits in here and doesn't do anything because it's useless. But yeah, all the others are combined in here and then pumped into various tanks for holding, and then finally into this system and used for ore doubling. This system periodically runs as more ore comes in, so it's almost constantly running, which means the power draw is pretty high. We have a power buffer up here to shut off power input if we need to, for whatever reason. If maybe it's draining the whole system. And then we have a spare vibrant capacitor up here to hold a little bit of a buffer just in case. We used to have our quarries back here from environmental tech, but they just got too big for this area and had to be moved. The shafts still go down to bedrock. In this back line we have all of the other ores that don't fit into the ore quadrupling setup. So most of these interfaces are full with some type of ore, or in some cases they have 2. And what this does is pump the different types of ores into these, in which they're processed. Some need to be enriched, some need to be put through a sag mill, some need to be put in an alloy smelter. I don't know why an alloy smelter and not an induction furnace, but there was some reason for it. I built this months ago. It's one of the first things we built. Or maybe macerated, or put through the industrial grinder. This one is almost always running because a lot of ores work best in here, including redstone and lapis. And we figured out the best for all of these different types of ore by using JEI and figuring out which processing method gave us the most bang for our buck. Some go through the pulverizer, and some go through the crusher from Actually Additions. Now that's like 4 different types of crushing, maybe 5, and then a different type of enriching and smelting, so either way we get the maximum usage out of our ores. Back here is just maintenance. There's actually nothing back here, what do you know? Like I said, this system was built months ago, and I have no idea what most of it even does anymore. I forget. But it runs constantly, and it gives us plenty of ores to do all our other stuff with, so it's pretty great. I do add upgrades here and there. Most of these machines are upgraded with mechanisms upgrades. And the induction furnaces, I just added a second one recently, because we couldn't handle all of the ore coming in. When I did a big mining expedition and came back, it couldn't handle. Of course, after that ore is processed, where does it go? Well, that's the next thing we're going to take a look at. The AE system. Now, I know I was in here before, but let's just take another quick look at it. We have our controllers here, and then we have P2P tunnels, and I'm going to bring up my network visualization tool so I can show you what everything does. This is pretty overwhelming at first glance, but pretty much each of these P2P tunnels, as denoted by the purple lines, actually I might be able to, there we go, switch the different types, there we go. Now we can just see the P2P links. Each of the purple lines denotes a P2P link. So I believe, if I'm seeing this correctly, this line right here, that is, this P2P tunnel is connected to our ore processing system. And what that allows us for is to bring all of the channels that all these interfaces would use. In here we have maybe 10 or 12, and boil them down to one channel in the ME system. That means there's only one channel going into this box. In this case, there's a couple because there's a lot of other P2P channels on this side of the cube. But this P2P tunnel connects directly to that P2P tunnel over in this area, which will convert all of these channels down to one channel, like squeezing them into a small tube. And on the other end, the tube widens again, allowing all of the channels to come back out and connect directly to the controller. This allows us to maximize the space that we have on each of these lines, as technically each of these things can hold, 32 channels on these ones, but each of those 32 channels can be just one P2P channel. This allows us to multiply it by effectively a couple thousand times, which lets us have a lot more channels to work with. Let me just flick this back to the full mode for later use. You can see we have a lot of stuff going on here. These are the disk storages, and this allows us to store all of our items, those that aren't stored in other areas. This one particularly has a lot of full storage cells, or disks, whatever you want to call them, depends what mod you're used to. But a lot of the other ones do have a few items in them, these ones specifically. And these kind of work by allowing 63 different types of item to be in each one, but then each of those item types to be stacked up to, well, 65,536 items total per disk. This allows us for a lot of item storage. Obviously, we can increase this upward along the walls. These can all have many types of item. We should have enough storage for a very long time. Obviously, there's a couple other things in here as well. We have network visualization so that I can tell where everything connects to for future reference. I sorted them into sides. This is the A node, this is the B node. We have C, D, E is the top node, and F is the bottom. And using those, we can determine where everything connects to and get a better idea of how the whole network works. Of course, it also allows us to sort out the maintenance tunnels. So, because this is C node and this is D node, I do need to label them. We can determine which side the maintenance tunnels that we have go off into. Obviously, there's a lot of maintenance tunnels in here, but many of them in this whole cave are actually just for AE lines because we have so many that run in every direction. If we go check out the C node, we can see that the C node line actually just comes right up to where our auto-crafting setup is. I'll show you a little bit of the auto-crafting. Basically, these convert these small piles of dust that we get from processing some certain types of ore back into fully fledged iron dust or ore dusts. Each of these is for a different type of dust. And then that dust is processed back through the system. These interfaces here keep a certain amount of items in our system. And this is just so if we want to craft something, we don't immediately run out of it. This one keeps 64 flint in the system by processing cobblestone into gravel and then gravel into flint. And that allows our Ender IO sag mills, wherever they are, to have a constant stock of flint, because the flint can be used in a sag mill, as you can see there, to improve the output and the bonus output and make it use less power. We also have ones to keep certain types of alloy in the system, keep glass in the system, keep oak planks in the system, and we can actually add more items per each of these to use less space. I just didn't know that when I initially built it, and so they all have different items in them. We can just improve or add more items to the storage bus here, and it should allow us to have more items per. The rest of this is just a cave. There's not much else going on through here. But if we head back into the maintenance tunnel, we can check out the other maintenance tunnel that goes into the main maintenance system of our base. So we have A and D node maintenance. This is A node off of this wall, and this is D node off of this wall. And if we use our network visualization tool, we can see that A node connects in that direction to a lot of different things, and D node connects in this direction, and that goes for a pretty long way as well. So let's check this out. Primarily A node. If we look through here, we can see that this comes off the system, and I've recently started using these as I didn't realize they were a thing, but there's Ender IO conduits that actually connect with ME lines, and that allows you to bundle ME conduits, power conduits, item conduits all in the same block, because Ender IO conduits are awesome, and not have to use these giant cables. So this connects through to a P2P tunnel, which then connects into our crafting CPUs that we use for our auto crafting. Now let's just run up here and I'll show you. These are our auto crafters, or these are the CPUs that handle the auto crafting of our system. So when we request something with our ME system, say it's a crafting co-processor, we hit next. It shows us the items that it's going to need or need to be crafted, and it'll tell how many bytes are used. It chooses a crafting CPU 0, 1, 2, or 3. I hit start, and look at that. It's already crafting on crafting CPU 0. It had to craft some glass, so it put that into crafting CPU 2. And this is now crafting the rest of it using various machines that we have set up around the base. It will be done in 3 seconds. 2, 1, and done. There it goes. Now if we look in our system, we have one crafting coprocessor. So that's what these do, and this system just allows us to have, I keep saying system, but it's really just a tunnel. It allows us to get some maintenance to it so we can actually see it, access it, and control it, or add more lines, or add more coprocessors, whatever it needs to be. So I will be adding probably these, maybe making some more, because we seem to keep running out of CPU. So if we look down this line, we'll see that it keeps going. This runs off to the ore processing maintenance. You can hear the machines running up there. And this is really just so we can access the gas lines, because they're the only thing that runs under the ground. Also, this ME cable runs up here, and then directly up to where all the interfaces are. If we keep running down here, we see that there's a bunch of random crap done this way, which is very true. This is like maintenance for like the machines that are in like our main crafting room, which I'll show you. And I'm teleporting through the floors and walls using my, if I press shift and right click with the Ender IO sword, you can either transport to the travel anchors, as you can see, or you can go short hops through walls. So we have some machines set up in here, so we have that power line that runs to power these machines. So that's all that is. If I can get back down there, which it doesn't look like we can do, then I can show you the rest. Oh jeez. Okay, back in the maintenance tunnels. If we head up in this direction, you'll see this power line continues over to this area. If we teleport up through the roof here, we can see that we have a couple more machines going on here. This one makes cobble, turns it into sand. This one makes cobble, turns it into gravel and flint if requested. And this one makes cobble, compresses it, compresses it, compresses it, and compresses it to octuple compressed, which is used for some higher level extra utilities to crafting. If we continue on, we have above that a little control room, which is only populated by one switch, and you will see what it controls later, but all of these lights and switches will be used to control various things with wireless redstone throughout our entire base. If we move on to over here, we can see the rest of the auto crafting. If something's requested in the system, it'll push the items to one of these molecular assemblers where it's actually crafted, unless it needs like some other machine for crafting, in which case it pushes it to whatever machine is required. But if it's literally just a crafting table recipe like you would craft in this little crafting table, then it pushes it to one of these and that's where it's crafted. Okay, I think I've covered a lot of the larger systems in our base here. One more quick look at this crafting room. We have some different machines over on the side here that we use for when we want to craft just a small amount of something and not craft like a whole large automated group of it. We have a power monitor so we can see over a certain amount of time how much power we have had. We lost all of our power last night doing some crazy crafting, so that's why it dropped over the last 24 hours. We have a little enchanting area over here. We have all of our XP store. We had a not an enderman farm, but a mob farm on the old world, which is why we have all this XP stored up. I haven't set it up on this world yet, so it's just kind of sitting in here and not being used for anything because we don't really enchant that many things. But one of these times I will have a mob farm over here as well. That farms the XP and pumps it into here. We have liquid XP with Ender.io, so that's how it got in there in the first place. We got obviously some anvils, a little bit of decoration, this thing, which is awesome. It's the enchanter from Ender.io. It enchants, you can make enchantments using items and XP, which is nice. And then if we want to disenchant anything, we throw it in here. On this side, we have a little bit of kind of herbs slash potions. We haven't really needed potions, but there's that one time when we did, so we made a brewing stand, and then I made a whole area for it, because, yeah, go figure. This was making nutrient distillation for us because I needed it for like one thing. It was like my bow here, which is the Ender.io bow, needed nutrient distillation to make the one part of it, so that's why that's a thing. And then coffee maker, because we were drinking coffee before we outgrew the need for food. Yeah, more decoration, the deco bench, which lets us make all the decoration. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We got access here for the pattern terminal, so if we want to make a pattern to encode a pattern with the crafting recipe for something, we can do it in there, and then we put it in here in the molecular assembler area, and then it is made into a pattern, and then we can craft it automatically through the system. Over here we got a machine for making nice little things like these arches and the columns and the like sloped blocks here. We got this resonator, which makes something for extra utilities. I forget what, and it's not really that useful. We got bulk storage for blocks over here. Yep, like I said, all my ores. That is pretty much that. And then up here we have a couple of sorted blocks we haven't cleaned up yet. We got the chunk loader. It loads like 49 chunks in this whole area because, yeah, we like to have all of our stuff running all the time. We got this cache for holding something. It was like the infertile brick that we used for the floor back when we were building this place. And then the mega torch, which just stops like all mobs spawning in 64 blocks area. So that's nice too, because we didn't necessarily let up every single block, even though we tried. Other than that, we have a couple walkways up here. We got walkways going to the surface on both ends. We got in the red and the yellow end. We have up here, we have a bulk storage room that needs a few things done to it, but it's mostly for mob drops. That was from our mob farm in the old world once again. So these are starting to run out now, so I'm going to start needing a mob farm soon. I have a dog back here too, are you kidding me? Yeah, so this is all obviously connected to our ME system. Deep down there someplace, this side's going to be liquid bulk storage when I get around to it. Yeah, so we're running around here. We got a little, I was experimenting with some computers, and they make a great sound when you boot them up. Yeah, pretty great. It's from Open Computers. So that was a experiment of mine. I'm going to leave this dog in here because sometimes I log off in here. Alright, I think we are ready to move to where a lot of the infrastructure is. Oh, I didn't show this stuff. This is a lot of our automation happens in these machines right here. So if we need something automated with the induction furnace, the pattern goes in here, creates one glass by pumping one sand, creates one charcoal by putting in one wood, creates one clear glass with one other sand, and on and on and on. We can craft our things using these blocks by doing this, because if we request 2 conduit binders in the system, it'll pump the conduit or binder composite, that's what it's called, into here, and then it will be smelted and then output back into the system. Just to show that, I'm going to request 10 of these bad boys, hit start, it'll pump it in here, and get made back into the system. We have these set up for almost all of these machines in here, and a lot of them actually are hooked up and working, even though we have it's all kind of open and not really complete yet. But crystal growth for AE crystals in here. We have block cutting machine, I think, that makes like iron plates and bronze plates too, apparently. Metallurgic infuser for enriched alloy and basic control circuits. A lot of this needs like more tubes on the side to like put in secondary ingredients, etc. So it's a little bit complex, and again, I don't really remember a lot of what I did to even make it work. So it's just been sitting here working, and if I need maintenance on it, I basically have to figure out the system again to do the maintenance. This one makes silicon, apparently. This makes some dusts. This must be a sag mill, yeah. And this is a slice and splice, and that's for making these like heads that have electronics in them. So yeah, that's this side. Oh yeah, these make our our alloys, which are almost always running. I'm surprised they're not right now, because we always need that alloy. And this just makes coal, coke, and outputs the creosote oil in here. For now, this will go in the bulk liquid storage eventually when it's done. Okay, yeah, here's more machines that we're gonna hook up eventually, and of course this is a gong show. I am going to now show off the kind of underbelly of the underbelly, so the cave below the cave that kind of controls and runs a lot of our systems. I'll show you in a second. Alright guys, so one thing I didn't really show off is the fact that we have these travel anchors in our entire base. We can stand on one and hit space to just travel between them, and that lets us get a lot of different places around our base. So, the place that I want to show you, we can actually get to by using this. It's called the project silo. It's where we keep all of our projects, but I'm going to actually show you something we just recently hooked in, which is a elevator from RF Tools over in this corner. And if we run in here, we get a nice little view of the cave from here. We can also right click the project silo floor, and we will be transported down to it. This is the project silo. It's pretty rough, and it's kind of not meant to look good. That's why it's down deep in the underdark of the bedrock level, and that's why we just pretty much made it with cobblestone using an RF Tools builder to mine out this large square space. And then I tried to go off that aesthetic and give it just factory blocks and steel scaffolding. So it's pretty rough, and it's pretty much meant to be. We have power and ME running up to the upper level through this pipe, and this brings us all of our item in and out, and all of our power in and out. We have a secondary capacitor down here that we use to charge up our machines that are down here, as well as wirelessly charge our like tools and armor, etc. And this thing controls the screens. This is the main ME interface for outputting items back to the surface. There's some kind of wacky system set up because we have 17 channels down here, and then it outputs it back down into one channel that goes up to the surface. Yeah, using the P2P tunnels that I kind of showed off before. So we have, I don't know why this is on. Let me just get rid of that. It doesn't need to be outputting items into here. So yeah, we have power running off in all of the directions off of this thing, so I'll start showing you the different machines. We have a lot of machines over here. I forgot how many we have now, but oh yeah, additionally they have lights underneath. That's why there's no torches. Well, some areas have no torches. And all of them run underneath the walkway, so it's nice and compact under there. But if I walk down this direction, we can see a lot of different machines. Off to our left, we have some personal beacons from Environmental Tech, and these things are pretty overpowered. Nanobot beacons, that's what they're called. So they have basically different modifiers. They are pretty expensive. Each of these 1 blocks, I believe, let me check this. Structure block tier 3. They each cost a tier 2, which costs a tier 1. And that means 2 gold, 2 diamonds, bunch of redstone, and an ender pearl for each one of these blocks. So it's pretty expensive in terms of raw resources. And then you add these modifiers that increase the potion effect on your player per modifier. So we have a bunch of speed modifiers and a couple saturation modifiers, and then a couple haste modifiers. So what this gives us is automatic, speed 3, haste 2, and saturation, we think it's saturation 2. It's not a vanilla Minecraft potion effect, so we can't actually tell that. But what that does is keep our saturation always full all the time, as you can see from my yellow food haunches down here. Pretty powerful, especially because this is a global effect, and it's not like a vanilla beacon where it drops off if you leave the area. It actually just always affects you no matter where you are. So we haven't had to eat for days in Minecraft, and that's why I don't carry any food with me anymore, because it's actually always full. Now that's so overpowered that I may actually remove that from myself at some point in the future, because it's just so powerful and I don't think I like it. But for now, while I'm just walking around the world showing you guys, it's nice to not have to eat every so often, so that's useful. This is Epic's over here. That first one is mine. This is Epic's, just so we can keep them apart. There's actually no way to keep them apart unless you break the block and place it. Then you'll start receiving the effects, the controller. So there's actually no way to tell which one is which. We just know that those are ours. So that's those, and that's why we have constant potion effects. In the back corner over here, we have a void ore miner, which grabs ore directly from the void using this structure. And it is also upgraded to mine pretty fast using speed modifiers. But it just needs to be hitting bedrock with its beam, which it is, and it will output ore to this chest, which is then imported into our system. Now, to show off kind of how fast it is, I'm going to turn off the void ore miner control, which actually just turns off the output of items to the system. They'll keep mining, even though it's not outputting items. So if we take a look at this chest, you'll see already we have an ore in here. Now this one's speed 3, so it is pretty fast compared to how it normally is. But basically we get an ore every few seconds, random ores from the ore dictionary, and they will show up in here. If the switch is down, they will be output to our system and processed and added back to our storage. So we never need to mine, and as long as one of these is running, we're always getting a constant stream of ore, which is why we need the ore processing to run constantly all the time. As you can see, it's very fast, and we get a lot of ore very quickly. Made all the better by the fact that we have two. Not this one. This one. This one also mines ore. It's the exact same as the other. It's also level 3. I think it has the same amount of speed modifiers. Yes, 4. So that's double that other ore that you saw. This doesn't really have any regards for rarity. I believe it's completely random how much of each ore that you'll get. So each of these are processed using our system. Every single ore that comes out of the system we have meticulously looked at to see which is the most producing machine that can be pumped into. And we made sure that each of these ores has a place in our system to go. That means we get almost constant and total mining resource addition to our system. This gets turned off sometimes when we have too many ores and don't actually need the extra processing. So we actually do turn that off sometimes. This one, not this one. This one, on the other hand, this is Epic's specialty. He definitely knows how to set these up. I don't really know at this point still. This one produces resources, and what resources are is different than ores. They're blocks like andesite, granite, skystone, stone, soul sand. You can see this one works a lot faster than the other one. This one has been fully upgraded with 7, 8 speed modifiers. So this one also outputs for a system, and we have a separate system set up for dealing with these. Primarily what we made this for is to get some of the blocks that you can't actually mine in the world, like mica, alabaster, abyssal cobblestone, things like that. I'm pretty sure do not spawn in the FTB Beyond packs settings. So this allows us to get some of those items which allow making these blocks way easier. That's why we have this set up in the first place. Now we just use it to get more resources so we can build or whatever with the blocks. A lot of the blocks are just recycled, which I will show you soon. This is the automated setup for crafting different types of AE materials. So this one crafts printed silicon, this one crafts printed logic circuits, printed calculation circuits, printed engineering circuits, and this kind of weird funky setup is for crafting the actual processors. So it's got a chest buffer and it's got to output some extra blocks, and I don't know. Anyways, this is hooked up to AE, and this is how all of our processors are crafted. So if I try to print a processor here using our AE system, say the diamond one, the engineering processor, and hit next, you'll see that the diamond is put in here. It's printed into a circuit, and then it's output into here eventually. Yep, there it is with some redstone, and then it's output back into the system. And now we have one. I'm actually going to craft a bunch of these because we're out again, as usual. There we go. Now they're all running. These are just using the inscribers from AE and the blocks from AE, so this can be done with just AE plus some other mod that allows you to have piping, because there's some weird janky stuff with these blocks where they can only have items input and output from certain sides. Okay, on that note, wow, my mouth hurts from talking so much. If we run over here, we can see the recycling plant where a lot of the blocks that come out of the resource miner are actually constantly recycled. So if you look on this side, we have some diorite going in here. We don't need diorite, we have no need for it, along with a lot of these other blocks. So they are automatically output into recyclers and turned into scrap. The ones on this side over here are actually set to keep a certain amount in the system. So there's 256 marble set to keep in the system. Any more than 256 and it's output to this recycler to be recycled. We have 800 alabaster and 2000 mycelium, and after those numbers the items will be put into here to be recycled. These ones mostly handle all the like weird stained clays and different types of cobblestone, and this one gets weird stuff like cakes, dust, and different types of wooden tools, because all of this scrap is output to scrap box crafters over here that craft scrap boxes using the scrap, output all the scrap boxes into these dispensers, and they're dispensed, picked up with this absorption hopper, and output back into the system. Now obviously we get a lot of junk from those scrap boxes being opened, like wooden tools, which is why they're all output back into the system to be re-recycled for another round of scrap boxes until we start getting something that we actually want. Now this needs to be expanded and will be expanded continuing down this area, but this is pretty much the rough and tumble little area that we use to just recycle our constant blocks. All of this will be made to look pretty eventually, one day maybe, but for now it just needs to do its job. Additional ore processing is to be set up, but this is going to be one of the machines that's used. This machine basically turns different types of cells into other different types of cells, turns some blocks into, or items into different types of, again, different types of cell. So what we're going to hopefully try and do with this is improve our ore processing even more by outputting different types of dust into here to be turned into the different forms of chemical, and then re-output to make different types of dust. If we head down this direction, we see that we have a couple more machines set up that haven't been done anything with yet. Immersive engineering machines, we're using these to create steel and other alloys before we set up some of our automated systems. Now they're just kind of deprecated and sitting here waiting for a use. Some of them still do have uses, especially the arc furnace. It's used for crafting a lot of things very quickly. We just have to set up an automated system so that it's like it's got to have, like, I think it's got like metal capacitors or something that have to be constantly replaced. So there has to be a system in place to constantly replenish it before we can actually get that set up. Same with the blast furnace. It needs some more automation that we don't have set up yet, and the mixer as well. Over here we were just testing the metal press, but we'll eventually probably be using this to automatically craft different types of plate faster than we are currently doing it, and using less resources. If we continue heading in this direction, oh look, wait, there's a little trap door here. Where does this go? Oh, it's the little door that said silo that we walked by like a long time ago. Yep, this is where it goes. This connects back up to our maintenance tunnels in our main area. It's just another way down. Not the initial way down, but just another way that we realized connected just a little bit ago. If we head in this direction, we'll see the newest addition to this space, and that's the Botania test zone, where I've been messing around with Botania. I've never really played with this mod before, but been making a couple things using the blocks and items that have been added, and it's pretty cool, I gotta say, so far. There's the cool animations and colors, and it's just a lot of green and grass and plants, and I don't normally see that in the mods that I play. I'll play a lot of tech mods and things that's just all steel. metal, not not green grass down in the underground. Not something I normally see. Okay, back up on the surface now, and we can see that there's a couple things that I would like to talk about up here. Primarily our power generation source. This is again from environmental tech, and it's called a solar cell. We have or solar panel, I guess. They're made of solar cells though. It's a large multi-block structure that outputs a lot of power, outputs it to this dimensional transceiver from Ender IO, and then that re-outputs to our power network down under the ground. Additionally, we have these cables actually run all the way down. We have these solar panels from Solar Flux Reborn, which are really annoying to craft, but actually make a lot of power. And as they're upgraded, will make even more. These are only level 7, all 8 of these. But eventually will be the highest level once we can craft them, and then these will make a lot of power for us. Now, these actually do fill up. This one's got 49 million power in it, so this is actually like a secondary capacitor almost once you get up to this level, because these hold so much power. So that's our power generation for now, and the leakage, I guess, from these the whole night long, the 48.1 million per right now, that's still leaking slowly into our system, is kind of what keeps us going overnight, which is not the best way to do it. That makes a weird sound when you jump on it. So we would like to do it in a different way, which we are working on, and that is the diesel generators from Immersive Engineering. That's our next project, and that's something we'll probably work on either in this episode or the next, and that's something that has to do with our farming area over there. This is just a little flower farm. We have a couple little machines set up over here for making stone for the wall here, because we need a lot of stone for the builder from RF Tools. Now, if we head in this direction, down this nice little path, look at these flowers. So great. Well, and then there's this giant black box, and yeah, it basically is just a giant black box, but what this is actually a wither farm, and how this works is this Lonsdaleite from Environmental Tech. What hurt me? Oh, you. These guys are so annoying. From Environmental Tech, it prevents wither explosions, actually. Well, it doesn't prevent them, but it prevents them from harming the rest of the environment. They're wither-proof, for lack of a better word. We head down here. It's impossibly hard to see. We can see that there's actually another block down here called the Mob Grinder from Draconic Evolution. And this thing does a lot of damage. It can kill withers in one hit. So we come down here, we place the soul sand, we place the wither skulls. We get out as quickly as we can. When the wither actually spawns and stops like doing the charge up sequence, this thing immediately kills it, and it sucks through this little hole underneath it into the vacuum chest that then holds the wither stars. So it takes a little bit of damage around here because the explosion leaks out through this hole, but primarily we don't need to touch this most of the time, and it is a temporary setup, but we needed some wither stars, and this was the easiest way to automate it. Not really automate it because we still have to place the blocks, but definitely helped out in our production of them. If we keep heading in this direction, we can see just a little bit of the things we've built. This is a farm field full of coffee seeds, flax seeds, barley seeds, and normal wheat seeds. This is primarily for looks, but this section is a little more useful. I'm going to be harvesting these soon and making an actual automated farm of them eventually. If we go in here, we can see some of the building we've done. This is just a little bit of the farm village that we have going on. This is obviously more Epic's specialty, so I'll leave him to talk about what each part of this is. But this is just a little farming village that we recently completed that kind of services this area and allows for the villagers a place to sleep and live. Obviously, there's a lot of wall built over here as well, and it needs just a little bit of finalization, but that's what you get when you build them automatically. They're not perfect, and you still have to go back and adjust them. There will be a bridge over this area here, as determined by this path. It will connect to this side. Where the cobblestone blocks are is kind of where the path will go. If we head over here, this is one of the first buildings we built, and this is just our initial power generation from those solar panels. It's got a bed in it. I believe that's our spawn point, actually. And this is the kind of original building that kind of determined the style for a lot of the other buildings. If we head in here, we can see that we have a little bit of a teleportation setup from RF Tools setup. So if I hit Forge City and hit dial, we can head over to the Forge City. I'm actually just going to run there so you can see, but rest assured if I stepped on there, it would teleport us there. We have those teleporters set up at kind of the locations that are too far for a travel anchor to connect to, and that's the one that you can access by holding shift on this. It lets me access those somehow, but as soon as I move farther away, it will stop letting me access those. So that's when we start using the teleporters, is when it's too far for, well, like I'm already too far away. If it's too far for the travel anchor to access, then we'll start using the teleporters, which most of these areas are. So if we head over here, we can see the Forge City, which is just basically a different building style, different style of color, and different area, obviously different biome. We want them to feel kind of different as we move through the different sections of the city. All of these machines will be set up here eventually, and this is for the creation of power with immersive engineering using the diesel generator, which is something that we want to get set up, but needs a little bit of work to do so. So this is the temporary setup of that will be fully set up soon. If we head in this direction, we can see that the teleporter is here, along with just random blocks and setup from when we were working over here initially when we were setting this up. We've handcrafted each of these buildings, and most of them have some kind of interior, which is are hopefully going to continue throughout all the buildings we build, even though that may be quite the process. Here we have a water mill from immersive engineering that's just generating just a tiny bit of power. Really not much, enough to charge up our tools if need be, but generally doesn't do a lot. A fluid tank full of water. This fluid tank is full of something. Oh, diesel. If we head down this direction, we have this building, which is kind of like a bakery. Immersive engineering is obviously featured pretty heavily in this area. And if we head down here, we have a final building that's kind of a construction site or a work in progress building. And that's that section. Over here, there's planned to be a forestry / like wood cutting kind of area, which is this building is kind of a proof of concept for this style. And this is, again, remains to be determined whether we will actually use this style, but it's the proof of concept. So for now, that's what's over here. That's the only thing that's over here. No wall is built yet. The towers in all four corners are built to kind of determine where the walls will go, and we terraformed the area that the wall will be in. That's pretty much it for the extent of the things that we've built in this world. The last thing that I just wanted to talk about was some of our items and tools, because we don't... Oh, this goes down to the salination plant, by the way. Just an awkward giant hole for now. It will be fixed, like everything will. Yeah, I wanted to talk about some of the items and tools that we have, because they're a little bit confusing and not immediately apparent what each of them do. So, if we run through my hotbar here, we have a mechanism, what is this thing called? A Paxel. There we go. Combines the axe, pickaxe, and shovel. I've enchanted it with everything that I need it to have to be a good tool. As well, we actually repair our tools using this item repair from Actually Additions when needed. Charges them, very slowly charges them. I say charge. It repairs them very slowly and uses a lot of power to do so, but definitely a useful tool. Then we have a sleeping bag from the sleeping bag mod that lets us sleep anywhere. My Ender from Ender.io, I named it. It's also enchanted with, again, every enchantment that we could think of would be useful. Having all that XP and having the enchanter from Ender.io is useful because you can kind of choose what enchantments are on your tools. And this is probably one of my most used tools as well, because it lets us travel using shift right click. Here's my bow, again, heavily enchanted from Ender.io, and it hits harder and pulls back farther for more of a straight shot than the vanilla bow even, so that's nice. There's a Sojourner's Staff from Reliquary, and this allows us to place torches at a distance, and also stores torches inside of it, so that you can have one stack of, well, I have 1,054 torches. If we move on, we have obviously the network visualization tool, so I can see my AE network. We have the universal wrench. Let me just throw this back in here. Universal wrench from the universal wrench mod that lets us combine the abilities of a lot of other wrenches. As well, we have the tool belt mod, which lets us have a little selection menu if we have the tool belt bauble equipped, which we do, with full upgrades. Because if you combine it with a tool or a belt pouch in the anvil, you get the tool belt, and with the tool belt you can have this little, and each upgrade adds another slot, but you basically can have a bunch of different items in one slot. You hold down a key, click on the item, you get the item, and then you can throw it back in the tool belt. So that's useful for keeping a bunch of the other tools that I don't use super often, but I use often enough to need on a regular basis in here. So that includes this one. Moving on from there, I have a couple backpacks here, and I also have one on my back, which I can press F to grab, and that's from Iron Backpacks, which is our latest and greatest favorite backpack mod. You can hit one key to see all of our tools. Then you can right-click other backpacks. I have one for cables, one for AE2, and then one for my general tools backpack, which is full of a bunch of other tools that you'll see me use throughout the series. Moving on to the armor, we have Dark Helm, Dark Slayer and Jetplate from Simple Jetpacks, Dark Leggings, and my Yeezy Boost 999s, which are just Ender.io boots. But they're all fully enchanted with really whatever would be needed, so most of them just have protection, but other ones have different upgrades, like the Dark Helm has Night Vision, which is a savior in dark places, which is just activated with the keybind on the keyboard, and they obviously protect me a lot, and sometimes I take them off when I want to fight things, because otherwise they just protect me from it. That is, if I have to fight things, because I use the charm belt from Reliquary to craft these charms for different types of mob, which lets them ignore us, basically. So mobs, when I'm holding this, will fully ignore me while I'm holding it, or when I have this on my person. I can add them, and it adds another charm. And you can only fit so many on here, so there's always going to be some mobs that will affect me, but a lot of mobs don't bother me most of the time, which is nice. If I do want to fight them, I just throw it in a backpack, and it stops working, and then I can fight the mobs, or whatever. If we move to my baubles, I have a wireless crafting terminal, which is why I can access the system with just the tap of a key, and that's only possible with this mod when it's on. It acts as the bauble, so that's really nice. Doesn't charge when it's in the bauble slot though, so you have to take it out to charge. That's the one thing. There's a lava charm from random things that protects me from lava damage. That's what this bar of lava is up here. There's the obsidian skull ring that protects from fire damage, so that and this one combined protects us from lava damage entirely, because even if with this you'll still take fire damage. And then the tool belt, and that's all I have for tools. They allow me to basically continue building things without being affected by a lot of things that would affect me. But if I do get frustrated with, not necessarily frustrated, but if I get annoyed that nothing affects me and I feel like too much of a absolute beast, then I can take off some of it and go back to regular. I still do die pretty often, usually to bosses or etc., or falling or something stupid like that. Falling when I don't have my boots on, which happens sometimes, because I normally sometimes I'll press a key on it as I'm moving by, and it'll move it off my hotbar, whatever it does, or not off my hotbar, out of my armor, and then it's just I'll hit shift on, click on it, or whatever it is, and then I'll fall and die. It happens. It's really sad. I got a hang ladder. I got a couple wands from Not Enough Wands, which just let me swap different types of block. Okay, I don't have the right type of block, but let's do swap blocks. Similar to a lot of other mods that have similar tools. And there's a building wand, which just builds off of it, kind of again, many similar mods. There's many building wands out there. And then the advanced charged teleporter, which lets me set a destination and use power to teleport to one of these teleporters that we have set up. So yeah, that is that one. And with that, that kind of is the end of this world tour for now. I've explained quite a few things. There's quite a few things I haven't explained. There's a couple of farms out there, some stuff in the nether that I haven't done. So I will be showing the rest of that off, along with more technical explanation of some of our systems, if and when I do a episode that is centric on upgrading those systems or adding to those systems. Then I'll probably explain them quite a bit more. I just grabbed a couple Enderman Soul Vials because we're always looking for more Enderman Souls, because we seem to need them all the time. They are used for quite a few of the things from Ender.io, the higher level stuff like Sentient Enders and all the crystals. So,
with that, for now, I think I'm going to call it there. This will be a long video. Not all videos will be this long, but just to start off, I thought it was good to give a general overview of hopefully almost everything. Further videos will also have Epic in them. For now, he's just not online at the moment, but later on in other videos, he will likely be here with us. So with that, hope you have a great day, great weekend, great week, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. See you later. Adios.